Step back in time with me, not just by centuries, but by millennia. Picture a world raw and untamed, a world of sprawling ice sheets, colossal beasts, and the flickering light of humanity's dawn. This is the stage for our story, a tale etched not in stone tablets, but in the echoes of the heart. It's the story of Cale and Lyra, two souls bound by a love as fierce and wild as the era they inhabited. Cale was a hunter, his spirit forged in the crucible of the great mammoth hunts. His strength was legendary, his gaze sharp, and his hands, though calloused from shaping flint, were surprisingly gentle. He moved with the quiet confidence of one who understood the rhythms of the earth, the language of the wind, and the tracks of the beast. His world was one of survival, of providing for his clan, a constant dance on the knife's edge between life and the encroaching cold. Then there was Lyra. Her domain was the warmth of the fire, the heart of the cave. Her fingers, stained with ochre and charcoal, brought life to the cold stone walls. She painted scenes of the hunt, of the spirits that danced in the flames, and of the world as she saw it full of wonder and peril. Lyra was the clan's memory, their storyteller, her voice a soothing balm against the howling winds outside. She saw not just the beast and the animal, but its spirit, not just the rock, but the tool sleeping within it. Their meeting was as natural as a river finding its way to the sea. Cale would return from the hunt, weary and blood-stained, and his eyes would seek out Lyra. He would bring her the smoothest stones for her pigments, the most vibrant feathers for her adornments. She, in turn, would listen to his tales of the hunt, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration, and then transform his words into breathtaking images on the cave walls, immortalizing his courage for generations to come. Their love was a quiet language spoken in shared glances across the fire, in the warmth of a fur cloak draped over her shoulders on a cold night, in the intricate patterns she would paint on his spear. They didn't have words for "I love you," but their actions sang a symphony of devotion. Their bond was the promise of a future, a small, warm flame of hope in a world that was growing colder and more barren with each passing season. The great herds were thinning, the winters were growing longer, and the gnawing grip of hunger was becoming an unwelcome guest in their camp. This changing world, this dying world, was the shadow that loomed over their love. The elders spoke in hushed tones of a great winter, a time when the sun would hide its face and the ice would swallow the land. Survival, once a daily challenge, was becoming a desperate war. The clan's numbers were dwindling, and the once mighty hunters often returned with empty hands and heavy hearts. The vibrant world Lyra painted was fading into shades of gray. The breaking point came with a brutal, relentless blizzard that trapped the clan in their cave for what felt like an eternity. Their food stores vanished. The fire, their bastion, against the cold, sputtered and threatened to die. Desperation clawed at the edges of their community. The chief, a grim man whose face was a map of hardship, made a devastating decision. The clan had to split. One group, the strongest hunters led by Cale, would journey west, chasing a rumor of a sunken valley where game was still plentiful. The other group, including Lyra, the children, and the elders, would remain, conserving what little they had, praying for the hunters' return. The farewell was a silent, agonizing ritual under a steel-gray sky. There were no grand speeches, only the heart-wrenching press of a forehead against another. Cale held Lyra's hands, his thumb tracing the ochre stains on her skin. He tried to speak, to promise he would return, but the words caught in his throat. Frozen by the magnitude of their separation, he could only press a perfectly shaped piece of flint, sharp as a tear, into her palm. It was a promise, a tool for her to survive, a piece of him to hold on to. Lyra clutched the flint, its cold edge, a stark contrast to the warmth of his hand that was now pulling away. She watched his silhouette, spear in hand, merge with the swirling snow until he and his party were just ghosts, swallowed by the white expanse. The cave felt colder and emptier than ever before. Every day, Lyra would go to the mouth of the cave, clutching the flint, and stare into the unforgiving landscape. Her heart ached with a silent prayer for his safe return. Cale's journey was a descent into a frozen hell. The sunken valley was a myth, a cruel whisper of hope. They found only barren lands and the skeletons of starved animals. One by one, his companions fell to the cold, to hunger, to the predators that stalked the desolate plains. Cale pushed on, driven by a single, burning image. Lyra's face, illuminated by the firelight. He was no longer a hunter for his clan. He was a man trying to cross a frozen abyss to return to the only warmth he had ever known. Back in the cave, time became a cruel, slow-moving glacier. The fire eventually died. The last of the food was gone. Ope! Wit! As Lyra grew weaker, she spent her final days doing the only thing she could. Using the last of her strength and the last of her pigments, she painted on the wall. She didn't paint great mammoths or heroic hunts. She painted a man and a woman, their hands almost touching, their eyes locked in a gaze that transcended time and space. And in the man's hand, she painted a spear, and in the woman's, a piece of flint. It was her final story, her last statue. Cale, against all odds, did not perish. He was found half-frozen and barely alive by another clan, a nomadic group who had found a geothermal oasis. They nursed him back to health, but his spirit was broken. The world he had fought so hard to return to was gone. When spring finally broke the fever of the great winter, he journeyed back. He traveled for months, a ghost haunting a reborn world. He found the cave, now silent and cold, and on the wall, he saw it, her final masterpiece. He saw their story, their love, their tragic separation, captured forever in ochre and charcoal. He fell to his knees, his hand tracing the outline of her painted face. He had survived, but he had lost his world. He had won the war against the ice, but he had lost the reason he fought. The echoes of their love remained, a silent, beautiful, and heartbreaking testament to two souls, torn apart by the struggle to endure. And there, in the quiet of the cave, Cale remained, the last guardian of a love story painted on stone. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the Stone Age. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more tales from the depths of history. Your support means the world. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.